Did you know that the average person processes up to 74 gigabytes of information every day? Well, that's a lot of room, which I'm going to help fill with some incredible facts. I'm Mike with List 25, and here are 25 fascinating facts that'll change how you see things. 25. Yes and no. The Irish have a pretty ancient language, though there are certain words they don't have in their vocabulary. Yes and no, for example. So, how do they respond in the positive or the negative? Simple. They say things like ta, meaning is, or nil, meaning is not. This does the same job, but it's surprising to hear they lack something as basic as yes or no. It's also fascinating to hear that ancient Latin doesn't have specific yes and no words. The language we use today has what's called a two-form system. However, this is apparently child's play compared to other ways of speaking. 24. Language with the most consonants. That title belongs to the obscure language of Ku, which you can hear if you visit parts of Botswana and Namibia. It's a language where vowels are most definitely not a priority, with an incredible 130 consonants against just 28 vowels. The people who speak this language number approximately 3,000, and they are semi-nomadic, meaning they live both permanently and on the move. 23. Octofact. If you think that an octopus can only have 8 tentacles, well, then prepare to have your mind blown harder than a blowfish on a bicycle pump. According to a report from 2008, a 3-foot-long, 7-pound octopus was found to have 96 tentacles. It was located at Shima Marineland Aquarium, now reportedly closed, in Japan. Well, I guess you could describe this astonishing creature of the sea as a multitasker. 22. Coffee cups are bad. I'm not talking about coffee, though it can be bad for you in large quantities. What I mean are the non-recyclable coffee cups that I'm sure many of you use and dispose of each day. It may seem like they can be recycled, but they can't. Why? Well, it's because they have a plastic lining to protect them from getting soggy. Billions of them reportedly go to landfill, which is fascinating, but also a little worrying. 21. Dull, boring, and bland. Can you believe that these are all actual place names of locations in Scotland, America, and Australia? There's a village called Dull, an Oregon town named Boring, and a town down under called Bland. They formed a so-called trinity of tedium. Together, they ensure that, while their place names aren't inspiring, their attitude to tourism is a whole bunch of fun. 20. Ethical Americans. While a lot of people want to work for a company that respects both its employees and the environment, they also accept that such a thing isn't always possible. How do we know a lot of people want that as an ideal? In 2017, a survey was conducted by the investment advisor Stash, who concluded that 79% of those asked wanted an ethical approach from big business. They'd even take a pay cut for the privilege of working for such a business. 19. Supermarket product expansion. Supermarkets are people's go-to destination for groceries and, well, plenty of other things. It seems like they've always been around, but to think that is to overlook just how far and how fast they've expanded over the decades. Their product numbers are staggering. It's been calculated that the number of available supermarket products went from around 9,000 in the 90s to approximately 40,000 in recent times. 18. Exhaling during sleep affects your weight. How is this even possible? Well, if you think about it, it actually makes sense. When we exhale, we breathe out fat, which sounds horrible, but it's all part of our body's natural processes. We're exhaling carbon dioxide, part of which comes from fat molecules at an atomic level. So our lungs play a role in weight loss during sleep, expelling fat and also water. I wouldn't recommend it as a diet plan, though, because that fat is coming back once you get up and start going about your day. 17. Finland and Sweden. Finland is routinely described as the happiest place on Earth, but I'm not sure that was the case between the 12th and early 19th centuries. During that period, Finland was the property of Sweden, and it wasn't a voluntary arrangement. This ownership was a conquest, so the Finns didn't get a say over whether to adopt the language and culture or follow the laws of the Swedish kingdom. They just had to do it, or else. Things didn't get much better with the next owner of Finland, which was Russia. It wouldn't be until 1917 that Finland achieved total independence. 16. But seriously. Chimpanzees identify each other through the shape of their butts. This bizarre science fact that you didn't know you needed was established via a 2016 study conducted by researchers from Denmark. Just as we humans never forget a face, chimpanzees, well, they never forget a rear end. Plus, like us, they have trouble recognizing things when they're upside down. 15. Eat the Titanic. To quote from the iconic movie soundtrack, "My heart will go on." Of course, one thing that won't be going on forever is the Titanic, which is currently sitting over 12,000 feet under the water in the North Atlantic. It famously sank in 1912, and since then, the mighty ship has been consumed by bacteria. Nasty things are busy making a meal of RMS Titanic as I speak. One example is Halomonas titanicae, which was identified in 2011. Long rusticles, or icicle-like structures of rust, are partly caused by this deep-sea bacteria. Eventually, the pressure from bacteria and other forces will become too great, and the Titanic will be swept into the sea for good. 14. Gold earthquake. Earthquakes may be one of our most destructive natural disasters, but they do have some fascinating positives about them. Did you know they're capable of producing gold? We actually rely on them for some of our gold deposits. How it all works is that the powerful forces of the quake reduce the pressure levels in underground fractures. These contain water, and more importantly, gold. This isn't solid gold, but a dissolved form of the sparkly substance, comparable to a gold soup. Without the considerable pressure, this soup becomes solid, meaning we get new deposits of precious metal. 13. Google's hairiest camera person. How do you use Street View technology to capture a desert? Well, in that situation, you need to get creative. Because it's difficult for humans to move around that kind of territory, Google relied on the natural world to do the job. A camel was fitted with a 30-degree camera so it could film the Liwa Desert in Abu Dhabi, part of the United Arab Emirates. In case you're wondering, the camel's name was Rafia, so if you see them on your street, don't worry, they're probably working freelance. 12. Forgetfulness is important. It's normal for someone to forget things, particularly as we get older. However, scientists believe that forgetfulness is actually a good thing when it comes to the overall health of your brain. In fact, the act of forgetting could be your brain's way of decluttering, so you can think more clearly and avoid burning out. I'm sorry, what was I talking about again? 11. Beer slugs. Slugs love beer. This fact is surprising, but it doesn't mean that they're alcoholics or anything like that. It's actually the smell that attracts them to a brewski. That yeasty, malty aroma is irresistible to them. Unfortunately for the slugs, they can drown in the beer. It's great if you want to trap some slugs in order to remove them, but again, not so great for the poor slug. Still, well, at least I guess they die happy. Interestingly, slugs have also been observed drinking the beer and then staggering away, or whatever it is that hammered slugs do. 10. Onion surprise. Oof, onions in a wound? Ouch. Even the thought is just making me wince. That said, they're believed to be surprisingly effective in the treatment of minor wounds. A study in 2023 showed that the peel from onions contains a bunch of useful ingredients that'll help sterilize and heal those cuts. Extract from onion peel as a cosmetics ingredient can also improve the appearance of broken skin. 9. McDonald's beefy secret. McDonald's burgers are made from beef. Who knew? Well, everyone, of course, but did you know that they used to cook their fries in beef tallow? Tallow is clarified fatty animal tissue, which doesn't sound very delicious. People rarely want to know how the sausage is made, right? Or I guess in this case, the French fries. Whether it sounds appetizing or not, beef tallow did a great job making those fries crispy and tasty. This is why McDonald's used it for all those years. In 1990, they stopped, making the fries less savory tasting, but also more enjoyable for non-carnivores. 8. Grizzly vegans. Here's a fascinating fact that'll change the way you see California grizzly bears. If we humans hadn't settled in their territory, they'd be eating a vegan diet. Strange as it may sound, the bears used to have a largely plant-based menu, snacking and gorging on whatever was on the trees or lying on the ground. Because we decided to live in California, we inadvertently added ourselves to the Grizzly food chain. So remember, the next time you're being eaten by a bear, it's probably your fault. 7. Rice dreams. We eat rice regularly, but it doesn't seem to have much of a taste on its own. Without something on top of it, or a flavoring of some kind, well, rice is bland. Or is it? Welcome to the crazy world of meat-infused rice. In 2024, it emerged that scientists had been working on a project where beef cells were grown inside grains of rice. Apparently, this rice tastes pretty nutty, which is appropriate because, well, it sounds nutty too. Why are scientists doing this? It's hoped the experiment will ultimately provide us with a sustainable, eco-friendly source of savory food. 6. Asthma drugs versus allergies. Drugs are known to have side effects, but this medical story from 2024 is especially fascinating. Researchers noticed that the drug omalizumab, also known as Xolair, could reduce the risk from certain food allergies. It was injected into the test subjects, many of whom went on to show a resilience to problem foods such as peanuts. The study has led to the drug being used to combat potential allergic reactions. This news must come as a relief to those who need to be super careful when eating out. 5. Electric plane flight. Electric cars have been part of our lives for some time. The first one was actually driven all the way back in the late 19th century. So we've had these vehicles for a while, which makes me wonder, well, what about the electric plane? Amazingly, the first commercial flight for an electric plane happened in 2022. Nicknamed Alice, the plane was made by Aviation Aircraft and flew for 8 minutes at a height of 3,500 feet. 4. Trees talk. Trees not only talk, they can protect themselves. This has been seen in African acacia trees, who can warn each other about predators such as giraffes. Giraffes may seem pretty cool to us, but they can cause damage to an acacia tree by eating their leaves. The tree produces ethylene gas, which is detected by its neighbors. This is bad news for the giraffe because the trees can release tannin into their leaves. Tannins interfere with the good stuff in the tree, leading to illness and even death for the unsuspecting giraffe. 3. The surprising link between genes and fungus. I don't mean genes that haven't been washed in a long time. I'm referring to the way that fungi helps genes look more fashionable. Yeah, you heard me right. The fungus Trichoderm ricci produces what's called cellulase, an enzyme which is powerful enough to attack the fabric of genes and give them that distinctive stone-washed appearance. It's icky, but probably cheaper than buying a bunch of stones. 2. Pining for rain. If you miss the weather forecast and you're out in the forest, you might be able to predict what the sky is going to do by looking at pine cones. When you see a pine cone that's closed, it means that things are, well, probably going to get wet. The cones are wanting to guard their seeds, so they do the plant equivalent of shutting all the windows before the rain comes. 1. City of Volcanic Stone. In the Peruvian Andes, you'll find a city called Arequipa, a name that translates as behind the summit. The city has over 1 million people living in it, though they do so under the watchful eye of not just one, but 4 volcanoes. Arequipa is intimately involved with volcanic activity. Even its buildings were created using sillar, or white rock from volcanoes. I mean, I've heard of being caught between a rock and a hard place, but this is ridiculous. Well, now that you know about more fascinating facts that'll change the way you see things, well, you're ready for my awesome question. This one is guaranteed to blow your mind. So, my question is, what are the oldest living structures on planet Earth? A. Dinosaur bones. B. Coral reefs. C. Trees. Or D. Volcanic rocks. Let me know your answers in the comments, and as always, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new content, and I will catch you next time. And check out whatever video our editor decides to put here. Check out that one. See you guys later.